The rain came down in sheets across Seoul, turning the Gangnam streets into rivers of neon and black asphalt. Inside the tinted rear of the black Genesis G90, Shin Ji-woon sat motionless, phone screen glowing against the sharp planes of his face. The viral post had been shared 17,000 times in the last 48 hours. A street art festival in Itaewon. A black woman with locks swept into an elegant twist, crouching beside two toddlers who beamed at the camera. The boy had Ji-woon's sharp jaw and piercing eyes. The girl carried the same slight tilt to her nose that his late mother had passed to every Shin child for generations. They told him she was dead. 3 years ago the warehouse fire had taken everything. His father's voice, calm as stone, had delivered the news in the hospital room. Amara perished in the blast. The doctors confirmed the damage: sterility from shrapnel and trauma. No heirs. No future outside the syndicate's carefully arranged alliances. Ji-woon had believed it. He had buried the grief so deep it became part of the ice that made men call him the gentleman butcher. Now the photograph burned behind his eyelids. Taejun, his driver and shadow for 8 years, kept his eyes on the road. Unit 304 Hongdae Side Street. She's been there 3 weeks. Rent paid in cash. No security cameras on the building. She's careful. Ji-woon's fingers tightened around the phone until the case creaked. 3 weeks. She had been breathing the same air as him for 3 weeks while he walked through boardrooms and back rooms believing her ashes were scattered somewhere in the Han River. "Stop here," he said. The car eased to the curb across from the narrow walk-up. Paint peeled from the concrete in long gray strips. Laundry hung limp on balconies. Nothing like the glass towers his family owned. Ji-woon stepped out without a coat or umbrella. Rain soaked his tailored black suit in seconds, plastering silk to skin, but he felt none of it. Each step up the cracked staircase echoed like a countdown. At the third-floor landing he paused. Through the thin door came the sound of small voices, laughter bright and fearless. A toy car rolled across hardwood. Someone hummed a half-remembered lullaby in English. His hand rose. Knocked 3 times. Firm. Controlled. The laughter stopped. Footsteps padded closer, hesitant. A woman's voice, soft but edged with steel. "Who is it?" English. Still her first instinct. Ji-woon's throat closed. When he spoke, the word came out rougher than he intended. "Amara. It's me." Silence stretched so long he thought she might not answer. Then the chain lock rattled, not released but checked. "Go away, Ji-woon. I saw the photo. I don't care what you saw. Leave." He pressed his palm flat against the door. "They're mine." It wasn't a question. The door flew open. Amara stood framed in the doorway like a storm about to break. The warm amber light from inside spilled across her face, catching the gold in her locks and the fierce set of her jaw. She looked thinner than he remembered, shadows under her eyes that spoke of sleepless nights and endless vigilance. But those eyes, dark, unyielding, beautiful, were the same ones that had once looked at him like he could be more than blood and violence. "Don't," she said, voice low and lethal. "Don't you dare step 1 foot closer." Ji-woon's hand still pressed against the door he'd caught before it slammed. Rain dripped from his hair onto the threshold, pooling between them like a line neither could cross without consequence. "I thought you were gone," he said. The words came out quieter than he meant, cracked at the edges. "They showed me pictures. Reports. A body burned beyond recognition." Amara's laugh was bitter, sharp enough to cut. "Your father is very good at making people disappear. I was bleeding out on that warehouse floor when his men dragged me away. They told me you were dead too. Said the explosion took you both. I believed it until I saw your face on a newsfeed 6 months later, still breathing, still running the empire." Behind her, small feet pattered across the floor. 2 faces appeared at her hip level, peering around her legs with wide, curious eyes. The boy, Ezra, tilted his head, studying Ji-woon with the same unflinching stare Ji-woon recognized in every mirror. The girl, Luna, clutched her mother's jeans half hidden, thumb brushing her lower lip. Ji-woon's chest seized. He couldn't breathe past the ache. "They're mine," he whispered again, not a claim this time but something closer to prayer. Amara pulled both children behind her. "They're mine. And they're safe. We leave Seoul tomorrow. You showing up changes nothing. If I found you, he will too." Ji-woon stepped forward half a pace. She didn't retreat, but her knuckles whitened on the doorframe. My father's men are already watching this building. They don't know about the children yet. But if they see you, if they suspect. You think I don't know that? Her voice cracked for the first time. I've spent 3 years running. 3 years teaching them to be quiet, to look over their shoulders, to speak Korean perfectly so no one questions why they're here. I gave birth alone in a back alley clinic in Daegu, terrified every contraction would bring his people through the door. I changed names, cities, countries for a while. And every night I told myself you were part of the reason I had to keep running. Ji-woon flinched as if struck. I didn't know. You stood by him. The accusation landed like a blade. You let him mold you into his perfect soldier. You believed his lies because it was easier than questioning the man who raised you. I grieved you, he said rawly. Every day for 3 years I carried the weight of thinking I'd brought you into my world and watched it kill you. I let him push marriage alliances, told myself legacy mattered more than... He stopped, throat closing. More than what we had. Amara's eyes glistened, but she refused to let the tears fall. What we had died in that warehouse. What's left is this. She gestured behind her to the tiny apartment. Crayon drawings taped to the walls, a scattering of toy cars, the faint smell of rice and tempera paint. A life I built without you. Without your family's shadow. Ezra tugged her jeans. Mama, who's the man? Amara knelt, pulling both children close. Go play in your room for a minute, babies. Mama needs to talk. The boy hesitated, eyes flicking to Ji-woon once more, curious, unafraid, before taking his sister's hand and disappearing around the corner. The door remained open, rain drumming steadily outside. Ji-woon met her gaze. Let me in, Amara. Please. Just to see them. Just to know they're real. She studied him for a long moment, the protector warring with the woman who once loved him. 1 minute, she said finally. Then you leave. And you never come back. She stepped aside. Ji-woon crossed the threshold into warmth, into light, into the life he'd been told could never exist. The Buckshin Hanok stood quiet behind high stone walls, its tiled roof curving like a protective wing over the narrow courtyard. Taejun carried the sleeping children inside first. Ezra slung over one shoulder, Luna cradled against his chest, while Amara followed, eyes scanning every shadow, every doorway. Ji-woon walked last, rain still dripping from his suit, feeling like an intruder in his own emergency retreat. The house smelled of cedar and old paper, the underfloor heating whispering warmth into bare feet. Amara settled the twins in the eastern room on futons already made up with fresh linens. She kissed their foreheads, smoothed blankets, lingered until their breathing evened into sleep. When she returned to the main room, Ji-woon stood by the low table, staring at the rain-streaked window as if the city lights beyond could explain how everything had unraveled in a single afternoon. They didn't even wake up, she said softly, sinking onto a cushion across from him. They're used to midnight moves. New apartments. New names. New rules. Ji-woon turned. That ends tonight. You can't promise that. Her voice carried no anger now, only bone-deep weariness. He knelt slowly, keeping distance between them. I know what I've cost you. I know you have every reason to hate me. But those children... His throat worked. They spoke Korean. Ezra looked at me like he already knew my face from somewhere. I taught them both worlds, Amara said. Because I always knew this day might come. If your father's people found us, I wanted them to understand what was happening when the doors were kicked in. I wanted them to have words for the fear. Ji-woon's hands clenched on his knees. I thought you were dead. I thought the accident left me empty. My father showed me the scans, the reports. He said the shrapnel took more than flesh. He said legacy had to continue another way. Amar met his gaze. He lied because he saw me as poison. A black woman. No pedigree. No alliance value. He couldn't let his perfect heir be tainted by something he couldn't control. I believed him. The admission scraped out of him. I let him push me forward. Marriages proposed. Territories expanded. All while I carried your ghost like a wound that wouldn't close. Silence settled between them, heavy as the rain outside. Amara traced the grain of the table with one finger. Do you remember the first Hanok you brought me to? I was terrified of the floor. Kept asking for a chair. You laughed, quiet like you were afraid to break something, and told me the ground was cleaner than most people's hearts. I remember. His voice was rough. You fell asleep on the cushions after dinner. Jet lag. I carried you to bed. You woke up mortified, apologizing for hours. A faint, reluctant smile touched her lips, gone in an instant. That was before I learned your world devours softness. Ji-woon leaned forward. I'm not asking you to forget. I'm asking for one night. Let me stand guard. Let me keep them safe until morning. Then, if you still want to run, I won't stop you. Amara studied him, the man who once promised her beauty in a city of blood, now soaked and stripped of every layer of control. One night, she said at last. You sleep in the western wing. I stay next to them. And if anyone comes through that gate, I'll be the first thing they meet. She rose, pausing at the doorway to the children's room. They're miracles, Ji-woon. Not weapons. Not leverage. Miracles. I know. He stayed on his knees long after she left, listening to the soft rhythm of small breaths through the thin wall, feeling, for the first time in 3 years, something thaw inside the ice. Outside, Taejun's men took positions on the rooftops. The Hanok held its breath. One night, the Park family compound loomed on the northern edge of Seoul like a fortress carved from tradition and menace. Lanterns glowed along the stone paths, but the light never reached the ancestral hall where Chairman Shin waited. Ji-woon walked the long corridor alone, shoes silent on polished wood, every step measured to hide the tremor in his hands. He had changed into a dry black suit in the car, but the rain's chill still clung to his bones. Chairman Shin sat at the head of the long table, silver hair gleaming under low lights, portraits of dead Shins glaring down from the walls. At 72 he remained tall, unbowed, eyes like polished obsidian. You found her, he said. Not a question. Ji-woon bowed precisely. Yes, father. And? She's alone. The photograph was misleading. Street children she was minding during an exhibition. Korean-American family. I questioned her myself. She's been hiding from Madame Go's people, not us. The warehouse attack 3 years ago was their move to weaken you through me. The lie slid out smooth, practiced. Jun kept his face neutral, the way he'd been trained since childhood. Chairman Shin studied him for a long breath. You're certain? Completely. Then why is she still breathing? The question landed soft, almost conversational. Ji-woon didn't flinch. I wanted the truth first. She claims Madame Go orchestrated everything. Faked the body, fed us the sterility reports to keep me grieving and controllable. If that's accurate, we have a bigger enemy than we thought. The old man's fingers drummed once on the table. Madame Go has been pushing boundaries. New clubs in Itaewon. Territory in Mapo. If she's bold enough to target my son's woman, he let the thought trail, eyes narrowing. Where is she now? Safe house in Mapo. I'll finish the interrogation tomorrow. Confirm every detail. Chairman Shin rose, walking to the window that overlooked the dark city. You understand she cannot live. Even if her story holds, she knows too much. About you. About us. I understand. Do you? The chairman turned, voice hardening. I raised you to place family above everything. 3 years ago I removed the distraction so you could focus. I gave you a medical excuse, a clean break. I expected gratitude. Instead you mourned like a boy, refused every suitable match, left the bloodline hanging by threads. Weakness, Ji-woon. The same weakness that ruined your uncle. Your grandfather. Ji-woon's hands tightened behind his back. You were right. I let emotion cloud judgment. It ends now. Prove it. Chairman Shin returned to his seat. Kill her tonight. Bring me proof. Something unmistakable. Finger. A lock of hair. Her phone with our conversations. I'll know if you fake it. The order hung between them, final as a guillotine. Ji-woon bowed again, deeper. Consider it done. He left the hall without another word, the weight of his father's gaze pressing into his spine. Outside, Taejun waited beside the car, engine already running. What did he say? Taejun asked quietly. Ji-woon slid into the back seat, staring straight ahead. He wants her dead by morning. And he'll know if I don't deliver. Taejun's knuckles whitened on the wheel. Then what now? Ji-woon pulled out his phone, thumb hovering over a single contact he hadn't used in years. Now we stop pretending I'm still his son. He pressed call. The line rang once. Madame Go, he said when the voice answered. We need to talk. The call connected on the second ring. Madame Go's voice came through crisp, amused, like she'd been waiting for this exact moment. Shin Ji-woon, the gentleman butcher himself. To what do I owe the pleasure? Ji-woon kept his tone level, though his pulse hammered against his collar. We have mutual interests. Your people have been probing my father's operations for months. I'm offering you the keys to the entire house. A soft laugh drifted across the line. And in return? Protection. For a woman and 2 children. Immediate extraction if things go sideways. Safe passage out of Korea when the dust settles. Silence stretched, thick with calculation. You're asking me to shelter the heir's secret family. Bold. Or desperate? Both, Ji-woon admitted. My father just ordered me to kill her tonight. Bring proof. He'll know if I fake it. Madame Go exhaled slowly. Proof. How quaint. And you're choosing betrayal over obedience. Why now? Ji-woon glanced out the car window at the blurred city lights. Because I looked into my son's eyes today. Because I heard my daughter breathe in her sleep. Because 3 years of lies just ended in a rain-soaked doorway and I'm done carrying them. Another pause. Then, send the first packet. Financial ledgers. Last 2 quarters. Safe house locations in Gangnam and Yongsan. Names of every politician and judge in his pocket. Do that and I'll consider your request legitimate. Ji-woon nodded to Taejun, who already had the encrypted drive ready. It's on its way. Secure channel. Received. Keys tapped faintly in the background. Impressive. You didn't even hesitate. I've had 3 years to rehearse this moment in my head. Madame Go's voice softened almost imperceptibly. Love makes fools of us all, doesn't it? Even butchers. Fine. I'll move pieces tonight. My people will shadow the Buckshin Hanok, discreetly. If your father sends a cleanup crew, they'll meet resistance. But understand this, Shin. Once the war starts, there's no clean exit. Your father won't forgive. My rivals won't forget. You'll be burning your own house to save a few rooms inside it. I know. Good. Then we have a deal. Get them out before dawn. I'll have a route prepped to Incheon, private jet waiting. After that, you disappear or you fight. Your choice. June ended the call without thanks. Gratitude would come later if any of them survived. Taejun met his eyes in the rearview mirror. You just handed her the map to topple everything. I handed her the map to free us. Ji-woon leaned back, exhaustion settling into his marrow. Drive. We need to get back before she wakes and decides running alone is safer. The Genesis cut through the rain-slick streets, headlights carving pale tunnels in the dark. Ji-woon stared at the encrypted confirmation on his phone. Files delivered. Alliance sealed. For the first time in his life, the gentleman butcher felt the weight of a different kind of loyalty. One that didn't demand blood, only courage. He closed his eyes, picturing Amara's face in the doorway, the small hands clutching her legs. One more night, he told himself. Then the world burns. And maybe, just maybe, something better rises from the ashes. The first gunshot came without warning. A sharp crack that shattered the Hanok's paper screen and sent splinters flying across the tatame. Ji-woon was already moving, shoving Amara toward the children's room as glass rained from the window. Back door. Now. Amara didn't hesitate. She scooped Luna into her arms while Ezra clung to her leg, wide-eyed but silent, the way she'd trained him. Gunfire stitched the courtyard outside. Madame Go's people had arrived early, hungry for the intel Ji-woon promised, unwilling to wait for an orderly handover. Ji-woon drew the compact pistol from his ankle holster and returned fire through the broken window, dropping one shadow that tried to vault the wall. Go, he barked again. Amara ran, heart slamming against her ribs, the children's small bodies pressed tight against her. Taejun appeared at the narrow rear gate, gun raised, motioning frantically. This way, cars 2 streets over. They slipped into Buckshin's twisting alleys, traditional roofs blurring overhead, footsteps pounding on wet stone. Behind them the Hanok erupted into full chaos. Muzzle flashes shouted orders in Korean, the unmistakable thud of bodies hitting ground. Ji-woon's men fought to buy time. Madame Go's forces pressed harder, convinced the drive with the syndicate secrets was still inside. Amara glanced back once. Ji-woon stood silhouetted in the doorway, firing methodically, buying every second she needed. Their eyes met for a fractured heartbeat. His face calm, almost serene, the way it got before he did something irreversible. Keep moving, Tae-jun urged, pulling her around a corner. They reached the black SUV. Amara bundled the twins inside, slamming the door as Tae-jun slid behind the wheel. "Where's Ji-woon?" "Covering us." Tae-jun floored it. Tires screeched on damp pavement. More gunfire echoed from the Hanok. Then a heavier explosion, grenade maybe, lit the night orange. Amara twisted in her seat, clutching Luna and Ezra close as they whimpered. "We can't leave him." He gave the order. Explicit. "Get you out. That's priority." Amara's voice cracked. "Turn around." "Ma'am." "I said turn around." Tae-jun's phone rang before he could argue. He answered on speaker, listened, face draining of color. "What?" Amara demanded. Tae-jun swallowed. Madame Go's team breached the inner rooms. They took him. Alive. They're moving him to her compound in Gangnam. The world tilted. Amara stared at the retreating glow of Bukshin, the safe house now a burning skeleton. Ezra reached up, small hand touching her cheek. "Mama? Appa okay?" She pulled him against her chest, tears burning but unshed. "He will be." Inside the car, silence fell except for the twins' soft breathing and the hum of the engine. Amara stared at the city lights streaking past, mind racing through every lesson survival had taught her in 3 years. Run, hide, protect. But running felt wrong now. Hollow. She looked at Tae-jun. "How long to Gangnam?" 20 minutes if we push." "Then push." Tae-jun nodded once, accelerating into the night. Amara held her children tighter, the weight of decision settling like stone in her chest. She had spent 3 years hating the man who failed to protect her. Tonight she would walk through fire to save him. Because somewhere in the last 12 hours, hate had cracked open and something older, deeper had slipped through. Madame Go's compound rose from Gangnam's skyline like a blade of glass and steel, all sharp angles and cold fluorescence. Inside the executive suite on the 38th floor, Ji-woon knelt on marble, wrists bound behind him with zip ties, blood trickling from a split brow. Madame Go circled slowly, heels clicking like a metronome counting down to judgment. "The gentleman butcher on his knees," she said, almost fond. "Your father must be tearing the city apart looking for you." Ji-woon lifted his head, voice steady despite the copper taste in his mouth. "He doesn't know I'm here. This stays between us." She laughed softly. "No, darling. I'm sending him a photo. Proof his heir is in my custody. Watch him scramble. Watch the empire fracture." "He won't negotiate," Ji-woon said. "He'll declare open war. Then war it is." Madame Go smiled, sharp as broken glass. "And the woman? The children? They'll be excellent leverage. You've finally given me something you care about. That makes you." The lights died. Emergency red bathed the room in blood glow. Sirens wailed distantly. Madame Go's phone buzzed frantically. Breaches reported. Multiple entry points. Security overwhelmed. She spun toward the doors. "What is this?" Ji-woon's mouth curved, small and certain. The difference between loving someone and being weak about it. The double doors exploded inward in a cloud of smoke and splintered wood. Amara stepped through first, flanked by Tae-jun and 4 of Ji-woon's most loyal men, all armed and moving like they'd rehearsed this in nightmares. In her hand she held a slim black ledger. Chairman Shin's personal records, the one thing Madame Go had coveted more than revenge. Amara's eyes locked on Ji-woon's. For a heartbeat the room held its breath. "Trade," she said, voice calm as still water. "This for him. Every transaction, every name, every dirty secret your people have been chasing. You get the keys to the kingdom. We walk." Madame Go's gaze flicked from the ledger to Amara, surprise giving way to genuine delight. "How did you?" "I broke into your enemy's compound while you were busy with mine." Amara's tone carried no triumph, only steel. "Turns out desperation makes people creative. Now let him go or I burn this and every copy I've already made." The standoff stretched thin as wire. Madame Go's men shifted, weapons raised. Then she laughed, low, surprised, almost admiring. "I like you," she said. She gestured sharply. Her guard stepped forward, cutting Ji-woon's bonds with quick knife strokes. Ji-woon rose slowly, wincing as circulation returned in pins and needles. Amara crossed the room without hesitation, slipping under his arm to support him. He leaned into her, the scent of her hair, coconut and rain, cutting through the metallic tang of blood. Madame Go watched them go. This doesn't end here, she called after them. I'm still coming for the Shin Syndicate. I know, Amara answered without turning. But you'll do it without using my family as pawns. They moved through smoke-filled corridors, Taejun covering their rear. In the elevator, Ji-woon looked at Amara like she was something impossible. You came back for me. Of course I did, you idiot. Her voice shook now that the adrenaline was fading. Did you really think I'd let you sacrifice yourself after we just found each other again? You should have run. Taken the children. Disappeared. Ezra asked where his appa was. Tears welled, but she blinked them back. And I couldn't lie to him. Not again. Ji-woon pulled her closer, ignoring the ache in his ribs. I don't deserve you. No, she whispered against his shoulder. But you're going to spend the rest of your life earning it anyway. The elevator doors opened to the underground garage. Taejun's SUV waited, engine running. They slid inside, Amara still holding Ji-woon steady as the car peeled out into the Seoul night. Behind them, Madame Go's laughter echoed faintly through the open levels. Ahead, the city waited, fractured, furious, and finally theirs to escape. The mountain temple north of Seoul stood silent under a moonless sky, its wooden beams blackened by centuries of incense and secrets. Lanterns flickered along the path to the ancestral shrine, casting long shadows across stone tablets etched with Shin names, generations of men who had built an empire on blood and silence. Chairman Shin waited inside, alone except for the ghosts. Ji-woon arrived on foot, coat open against the cold mountain air, no weapon visible. The chairman stood before the altar, back straight, hands clasped behind him. You've come, the old man said without turning. To beg forgiveness, or to finish what your betrayal started. Ji-woon stepped into the dim glow of the lanterns. Neither. Chairman Shin finally faced him. Age had carved deeper lines into his face, but the eyes remained sharp, unyielding. You handed our secrets to Madame Go. You let her raid our strongholds. You chose a foreign woman and her half-blood children over the bloodline that made you. Everything I built, for you. For control, Ji-woon corrected quietly. You told me she died. You showed me forged reports. You tried to erase her because she didn't fit your vision of purity. And when that failed, you tried to erase them. The chairman's lip curled. They are a stain. It's unacceptable. I protected you from weakness, from the sentiment that destroyed every Shin who let love soften his edge. Ji-woon moved closer, voice low. You protected your legacy. Not me. You made me sterile in the eyes of the world so I'd marry whoever secured the next alliance. You lied because the truth, that I could love someone outside your rules, threatened everything. From the shadows beyond the altar, figures emerged. Madame Go's lieutenants, enforcers from rival families, men Ji-woon had quietly contacted with the last of the leaked files. They carried no guns, only the weight of exposed ledgers, recorded conversations, bank trails. The chairman's empire laid bare. You taught me how to dismantle organizations, Ji-woon said. How to find the weak points. How to turn allies into enemies with a single truth. You just never thought I'd use it on you. Chairman Shin's composure cracked. You would destroy your own family? I'm freeing it. Ji-woon's gaze never wavered. From you. From the lies. From the cage you built and called honor. The old man lunged then, a ceremonial dagger flashing in his hand, swift, practiced, lethal. Ji-woon met him without hesitation. They grappled among the ancestral tablets, father and son locked in a dance older than the shrine itself. A blade nicked Ji-woon's arm. He twisted, caught the wrist, forced the chairman back against the altar. Ji-woon's hand closed around his father's throat, pressing just enough to still him. You could have had everything, the chairman gasped. Power, fear, respect. I have everything. Ji-woon's voice was calm, almost gentle. A son who calls me Appa. A daughter who reaches for me in her sleep. A woman who walked through gunfire to save me when I didn't deserve it. That's not weakness, father. That's the strength you never understood. He released his grip. Chairman Shin collapsed to his knees, coughing, defeated. I won't kill you, Ji-woon said. I'm going to do something worse. I'm going to let you live. Let you watch every piece of what you built crumble. Let you see your son choose love over legacy. That's your punishment. He turned away. The rivals stepped forward, not to strike but to claim what was left. The chairman remained on the floor, surrounded by the silent tablets of ancestors who could no longer protect him. Outside, Amara waited at the temple gate, Ezra and Luna asleep in the car behind her. She searched Ji-woon's face as he approached, blood on his sleeve, exhaustion in his eyes, but something lighter in his posture. "Is it done?" she asked. "It's done." Ji-woon knelt before the open car door. The twins stirred, blinking awake. He met their sleepy gazes. "We're free," he whispered. Ezra reached out, touching the drying blood on his father's cheek. "Appa hurt." "A little," Voon said. "But I'm okay." He pulled them both into his arms, holding them like they might vanish. Amara watched, tears silent on her face. Luna's small voice broke the quiet. "Go home now." Ji-woon looked up at Amara over their daughter's head. "Yes, baby girl. We're going home." Busan's coastline glittered under late afternoon sun, waves whispering against the breakwater below the small art gallery. A modest sign hung above the door in elegant Hangul and English. Bloodline echoes. Inside, white walls held bold canvases. African geometrics melting into Korean ink washes. Hanok roofs blooming with Kent patterns, stories of fracture and fusion painted in vivid color. Amara moved through the space with quiet confidence, adjusting a frame here, greeting a visitor there. Critics had begun to notice. Her work was raw, refined, unmistakably hers. Ezra darted between legs, clutching a small canvas smeared with ocean blues. "Mama, look. I painted the sea." Amara crouched, studying the scribbles with mock seriousness. "Dynamic. You captured the waves perfectly, baby." Hannah toddled over, paint on her cheeks and hands, grinning wide. "Messy." "Beautiful messy," Amara corrected, wiping her daughter's face with a cloth. Across the street, half hidden in the shadow of a cafe awning, Shin Ji-woon stood in plain jeans and a dark jacket, cap pulled low. No suit. No entourage. Just a man watching the life he'd fought to give them. Every week he came here, memorizing the way sunlight caught in Amara's locks, the sound of Ezra's laugh, Hannah's paint-streaked fingers. He deposited funds into accounts she never questioned, kept invisible eyes on the city's edges. The old debts were mostly silent now, but silence could break. Taejun appeared beside him, voice low. Three of Chairman Shin's old lieutenants sniffing around Busan, asking questions. "They've traced the money trails." Ji-woon's jaw tightened. "How long?" "A week. Maybe less." "Let them come." His eyes never left the gallery. "I'm dead to that world." Taejun hesitated. "Boss, you could just walk in. The kids ask about you. They draw pictures of Appa who saved them. They remember a hero," Ji-woon said quietly. "Not the man who killed for a living." Before Taejun could reply, the gallery door flew open. Ezra burst out, running down the sidewalk with fearless 3-year-old speed. "Appa!" Ji-woon froze. Amara appeared in the doorway, Hannah on her hip, expression caught between shock and something softer. Relief, maybe forgiveness. Ezra crashed into Ji-woon's legs, hugging tight. "Why you standing outside? Come see Mama's paintings. They're so pretty." Ji-woon looked up. Amara walked toward him slowly, deliberately, until they stood face to face. "How long?" she asked, voice controlled but edged. "Every week since you opened." Her eyes flashed. "Every single week you've been out here like a ghost and you never came inside." "I was protecting you." "From what?" "Yourself." She shifted Hannah. "You think we're safer with you hiding than with you here? You think that's freedom?" Ezra looked up. "Appa protects by staying. That's what Appas do." The words landed like truth carved in stone. Ji-woon knelt, meeting both children's eyes. "I'm not a good man. The things I've done." "We know," Amara interrupted gently. "I tell them age-appropriate versions. They know their Appa was lost in a dark place. They know he fought to come back. And they know he loves them more than anything." Hannah reached out, small paint-covered hands framing his face. "Appa now." Ji-woon's throat closed. He could keep running, keep guarding from shadows. Or he could step into the light and risk everything. Danger, yes, but also the terrifying possibility of being enough. "Yes," he whispered. "Appa's home now." Ezra hooped, jumping. Hannah clapped, leaving prints on his jacket he'd never wash out. Amara pulled him to his feet and kissed him. Steady, real, a promise that said they were both broken but willing to try. Inside the gallery they toured as a family. Ezra explained every scribble. Hannah tried to eat a brush. Ji-woon listened, actually laughed, while Amara closed up for the night. Upstairs in their small apartment, bath time became a battlefield of giggles and soap suds. Ji-woon emerged drenched, rubber duck in his hair, children racing past in pajamas. Amara laughed until she had to sit. Welcome to parenthood. Later, after stories and tucked-in kisses, Appa staying forever? Yes, forever. They sat with tea in the quiet living room. Threats still exist, Ji-woon said honestly. My father's people. Loose ends. Amara sipped calmly. Then we faced them together. No more watching from across the street. Partners. Partners, he agreed. Outside, Taejun rerouted the last shadows heading their way. One night of peace. One night of normal. Inside, Ji-woon looked at the largest canvas on the wall. Seoul melting into new patterns, old bloodlines remade. Beautiful, he murmured. I know, Amara said, squeezing his hand. Mostly. And for the first time in years, the gentleman butcher felt something simpler than power. He felt home.